What's going on, you guys? Slim here, finally back with another video, and today, you guys, we're bringing back one of my favorite series here on the channel. We are bringing back why this deck won the previous YCS or main event, and of course, I had to cover YCS Bologna. It's absolutely crazy to see. Shout out to Joshua Schmidt winning his 4th ring, playing this crazy RUNICK BYSTIAL synchro deck, and just winning it all with the deck that #1, he even said it in his profile that he wanted to play and had a blast playing. So hopefully you guys do enjoy. It's been a while since I've done this series, but I'm hoping to bring it back, so be sure to smash that like button. Be sure to check all the links and sponsors in the description. I'll also have a link to Joshua's Schmidt's channel. I'm sure you guys are subscribed. One of the best competitive channels out there for Yu-Gi-Oh! And also Master Duel. Just be sure to check it out. His live profile will also be there as well. I just want to talk about why this deck won the YCS. I think a lot of players were taken back, absolutely just shocked that this was the deck that won it all. I think everyone had eyes on Rescue Ace. They had eyes on decks like Unchained. They had eyes on Tier Elements. They thought one of those decks was going to win it all. But no, it was the lone RUNICK BYSTIAL deck in top 64. And of course, it was Joshua Schmidt who took it all down in the finals, beating Rescue Ace. Absolutely crazy. So what I want to do, what I always do for this series, if you guys are not familiar, I go over the deck, give my opinions on it, mention some things that were mentioned in the live deck profile. Then I talk about the personal reasons I think the deck won and had so much success. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Again, be sure to smash that like button and let's hop into it. So we'll start with the main deck. The main thing with this deck is that you'll see that it's basically broken down into, you have your Synchro engine, you have your BYSTIAL engine, you have your RUNICK cards, and then as far as non-engine, the only cards that are really a non-engine are the 3 Ash Blossoms. Now, he did mention in his live deck profile he chose this because it was just the most generically good hand trap. Just good against pretty much every deck in the format. A lot of times a well-timed Ash can just make your opponent pass. This deck is very solid, especially going first. You can put up a really good boards, and then backing it up with an Ash Blossom is very solid. It's just the best generic hand trap. If you notice in the side deck too, he does have more high impact hand traps. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but for the main deck, he just wanted to keep it simple, which is 3 Ash Blossoms. On to the rest of the engine. So of course he does have the like the tuner engines and the access. He has just 1 copy of Blazing Cartesia. Now, he did mention in the live profile that he only went for 1 copy of this. The previous version of this deck, which did win, I believe it was the Santa Clara Regionals, did play 3 copies of this along with a 3 Guiding Quem. He did mention though he wanted to cut that down. You really don't want to open this card that much. You really want to rely on Quem to do most of the work. So just 1 copy of this was still solid. It's still a level 4 tuner. You can still add it back to your hand. So very, very solid. And then of course the 3 Quem, just best card in the deck. As far as going first, you just want to normal summon it, use its effect, get things rolling. A lot of times you're sending the BYSTIAL Alibur, or you can even send the Cartesia. So it's very, very solid. This just helps you get into your Synchro 10s. That's really like the main point of this deck. And then you just overwhelm the opponent with BYSTIALs. Being big DD Crows with good effects is crazy. For the BYSTIALs, he chose 1 copy of Baldrake along with 1 copy of Druis Worm, and of course the 1 Magnuma because it's at 1, along with 2 copies of Saranir, and then of course the 3 Lubellion just gets everything online, and then 2 copies of Branded Regain, which he did mention is probably one of the best cards in the deck, being able to give you that grind game, which is really the name of this deck. It does grind very, very well. It does play into boards very well, and I learned something new watching the deck profile along with Farfa that I didn't know. If you had double regained on the board, you literally can special 2 BYSTIALs. That's absolutely crazy. So this card really just does everything for you. Recycles, draws you cards, specials big monsters. Like, this card is fantastic. Playing 2 copies of it is very solid. He also did mention in his profile he didn't want to play the trap, felt that it was just really bad going second, which makes sense. It didn't really do anything for you, so he just chose to omit it completely. It's not even in the side deck, so it really has shown that 2 copies of Regained is really the way to go with this particular build. And then moving on to probably one of the coolest cards in the deck, it is Duality. This card is nuts. Shout out to Dinka Boy, as he mentioned, who did mention this card to him. What this card does is it lets you tribute 1 light or dark monster, and then you're able to special summon 1 light or dark monster from your hand or extra deck with the same original type and level, but a different original attribute. So that's pretty crazy. The main targets that he was going for in the extra deck are, of course, the 1 copy of Albion, the Essence of Vanity. The reason for this, it's just a level 2 tuner. That's the main reason. It's a level 2 tuner, and it lets you continue doing your synchro climbing and your synchro plays. And then the really crazy bread and butter card, if you can get it out, was the Fabled Unicorn. This card is nuts, one of the OG cards. When we get to it, you guys will see why. You guys probably see it on the screen now. Like, its effect is absolutely bonkers, and the fact that you can actually summon this is crazy. So this card gave him a lot of utility. It let him dodge imperms and veilers. It let him play around certain cards. It also let him OTK when he wasn't skipping his battle phase. Being able to attack, and then duality, and then get another monster out is pretty crazy. So very, very solid card. And then it has another effect that I think a lot of people don't know, but it says during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard. You then target one light and one dark monster in your graveyard. You shuffle both into the deck and then draw one card. So it literally lets you recycle your cards. That's absolutely crazy. And get a draw. Like, this card is fantastic. So one of the best cards in this deck. Very, very cool to see it, in this deck, and had a lot of success. So fantastic. And then the rest of the deck is basically Runicks, and you're just playing 3 of all the good ones. So you're playing 3 Destruction, 3 copies of the Flashing, 3 copies of the Freezing, 3 copies of Slumber, 3 copies of Tip, and then just 1 copy of the Smiting Storm and the Dispelling, of course, with the 2 copies of Fountain, to give you a very clean 40 cards. Very, very solid list. It looks very nice, not only on Dueling Book but on paper. Just a very solid 40 cards that really do get the job done. The fact that you can just combo everything with the Runic cards, get the interruption with the Runic cards, and then have the Bystials to overwhelm your opponent, and really powerful synchros to overwhelm your opponent, really shows like how powerful this deck really is. We'll hop into the extra deck real quick. Again, the main target he was using for duality was Alvion, being able to, when you special Hugin, you go activate the Tread of Veiler or Imperm, you chain duality to summon Alvion. Very, very solid. Being a level 2 tuner, it basically just helps you synchro climb. Along with Jerry can get you back your Fountain, also can pop a card if it does get destroyed. What's cool about this too is that you use duality into the Fabled Unicorn, so very solid. And then of course the 2 Hugin, self-explanatory, get you Fountain, protect your Fountain if need be, and then just helps you synchro climb as well. And then the 1 copy of Slipnir. This card's very cool. It checks your opponent, being able to just cause an interruption as well is very, very cool. So just gets a body on board as well, just to interrupt your opponent. So very solid. He did play the minimal as far as Runic goes. You didn't really need anything else, so very solid. Then of course for the synchro 10s, he's got the Baronne de Fleur, self-explanatory. The Dispotter, you're playing Bystials. The Chaos Angel, this card is crazy. You can literally protect your monsters with this card, and it also can get rid of another card, so this card is fantastic. He's playing the 1 copy of Coral Dragon. It gives you a level 6 tuner. You're also playing a level 6 non-tuner, just so that when you're synchro climbing, you have both ends, and then they both draw you cards. This deck really likes to draw cards, so very, very solid. Scarlight, it's a duality target. It also can do burn damage. It can close out a game, and then it's also there for, you guys know what it's there for, but yeah, it's in there. A very, very solid card as well. And then he is playing, of course, the Chain Yang. This is another 10, just very solid. Has a lot of good synergy with the Runic cards, a lot of good synergy with the banishing effects, and then it can get very big in the process as well for when you're no longer skipping your battle phases because of the Runic cards. You can go back in and just deal game with this card, so pretty crazy. And then we got to talk about the Fabled Unicorn. This card is crazy. I literally get it off of duality. So you duality away the Jerry. So it's a very kind of niche situation, but you duality away the Jerry, which is one of the options. And then what you can do is, while you and your opponent have the same number of cards in hand, you negate all cards and effects activated by your opponent if you do destroy those cards. So literally, if you and your opponent have the same amount of cards, they basically can't play. They try to do something to lower their card hand size. You just chain a Runic, and then you have the same amount, as he mentioned in his profile. Pretty crazy. This card is super old, and it's awesome to see it back, and just a very cool application in this deck. And it also can close out games, because I believe in one of his matches on stream, he literally attack dualitied into the Fabled Unicorn, and that was game. So 2300, so it got in there. So very, very cool. And then of course the Tri-Edge Master, your just new updated version of Stardust Charge, literally lets you draw a card, so that's really why it's there. It's your non-tuner level 6, just helps you climb into 10. And then you have, of course, Typhon. This card is crazy, especially going second. Very easy to just summon a Hugin. You already threaten this card, slap this card on there, you're good to go. Very, very cool. And then of course the best link to come out in ages, SP Little Knight. Very, very cool. This card has really great synergy along with Regain, as does some of the other cards in this deck. So very, very cool to see, just a very solid extra deck to go with the main deck. And then lastly, just the side deck real quick. So you guys see he did side a lot of hand traps. You've got the 3 Joel and the 3 Nib as your high impact hand traps. What he did mention is he wanted only high impact hand traps. He didn't want something like a Veiler or an Imperm to trade with one one card. This just gave you like full coverage, pretty crazy. As you guys saw in the finals in game 3, he nibbed his opponent. That's what got him there. It's pretty crazy. And then Phantasme, which is like his favorite card in the side deck, literally to get you there. Like anyone that's played Phantasme knows that you just drop this. Not only do you get a body on board, you also help draw and sculpt your hand. So very, very solid. Gives you very solid things to draw into, such as Droll and Nib, because you have that high impact, which can be turn ending for your opponent. So very solid. It can just sway the tide of a game. And then 3 Denko. So Denko is crazy. I thought he was playing this just for back row decks, but he did mention it in the profile, which again, the link will be in the description, that he does this against Rescue H. You actually can side it going first. You normal this, you do your plays. Like literally, your opponent cannot set the 4 cards. Like pretty crazy. This card also going second. You can summon it, turn off the back row, attack into SP, continue your plays. Very, very solid card. Crazy to see this card back. It also covers, of course, against the trap decks, as I mentioned, but the main impact that he had for it was Rescue A. So very, very cool. And then lastly, you know why this card is here. You're playing a Runick deck, even though you have Bystials and stuff, your battle phase gets skipped a lot. Yeah, this card's going to come up. Spooky Dogwood. Yep. So yeah, so that is the main deck, the side and the extra. Very, very solid. Again, check out his profile to get a more in-depth explanation. And then just to round out the video, why I think this deck did so well. Number one, it's Joshua Schmidt. There's no way around it. One of the best players in the game currently. He is the Master Duel World Champion. He has now won 4 YCSs. He is one of the most consistent players I know. One of my favorite players. He's also just, on the content grind constantly. Like, he's very well versed in the format. He knows the format. As many decks as there are, and I believe there were 17 different decks that did make top cut. It was top 64. He was the only Runick Bystial, so that's crazy too, that he was the only one playing this deck, and then he ended up winning the whole event. So pretty crazy. I think that we gotta mention that. Number 2, I think a lot of people forgot about this deck. While it has had success at regionals and other, smaller events, it's not really a deck you see as much. I think when people think Runick, a lot of times they're thinking either stun or something else, and Runick cards kind of got put by the wayside. You have decks like Rescue Age, you got decks like Purely, Unchained, Tier Elements, like all these cards, all these different decks. But the fact that you have such a solid engine in Runick, such an advantage engine, and then you pair it up with Bystials, which are just good against pretty much the tier element decks, the light and dark decks. They're not amazing against Rescue Ace, but he still had a game plan against Rescue Ace, and it still worked out in his favor. Very good against Unchained. You guys already know, like, this deck just really played well into the format, and I think it was really just the best meta call for him. And again, it being Joshua Schmidt, he is a very well-versed player. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to navigate the format. He knows how to break the boards. And again, having this innovation from Duality, I think really took it to the next level. He did, again, as I mentioned, trim some fat from the extra deck. He wasn't playing like the Despia cards and stuff that just added, just more stuff into your extra deck that may not even come up. He kept it a clean 40. He kept it clean without extra copies of cards that you don't want to draw, and that's why he had success. He had a very consistent deck that had a solid game plan and was able to carry it out each and every game all the way into the finals and then win it all. And I think the side deck was extremely well built for this particular deck. It really did synergize well with what this deck wanted to accomplish. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to smash that like button if you did. Again, check his channel in the description below. You'll be able to see the live deck profile that he did with Farfa, where he goes into much more explanation, as he always does on his list. And hopefully you guys will try this deck out. I think this deck is really cool. It looks really fun. It'll be interesting to see what this deck does going forward. A ban list is on the horizon. We'll be doing our predictions soon. The only card I can really see getting hidden here is maybe some Runick cards. I don't really know if they've hit anything else. So it'll be interesting to see how this deck continues to innovate as the format continues. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. That's all I got to say for today. Check all the links in the description, all the sponsors and everything. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.